Okay, so my project was shaping a surfboard. So, and how could I integrate it into school? So in the beginning of my project, I had to do a lot of research. I researched a lot about shaping and the aspects and parts of the board that come into play and how they affect how the boards ride. And then after that, I headed down to US Blanks with my uncle, who is also a shaper, and we bought a blank for the board that I was going to shape. And then after that, we began shaping. So the way we did that is we first chose a model that I wanted to kind of shape like, which I chose to do the Hayden Shapes Hypto Crypto, which is based out of Australia, and so we drew out the template, and then we cut it out with a saw. Alright. Okay, and the middle of the project was basically just a lot of shaping. It was so we first started off with, I had to shave down the top and bottom of the blank because when you shave down the top and bottom, when you get the blank, there's a hard sealing on it, so during shipping it doesn't get damaged. So what I had to do was just take a shear foam and shave all that off till I got to foam, and that took about 2 hours on each side, and it was just really hot, and your hand was cramping, and it wasn't very much fun. And then after that, I moved on to the contours of the board. For the board that I made, it was a double V off the top, and then a single concave, and then a double V out the back. And so you may be wondering why there was a double V off the top, because you really don't, your front of the board isn't really in the water while you're surfing, so you wouldn't think you need any contours. But what the double V off the top does is it breaks apart the water, breaks it apart while you're paddling, so it makes it easier to paddle. After that, I moved on to the rocker, which is how the board is kind of curved from the top to the bottom of it. And so the rocker is basically, the less rocker you have, it might be a little bit less responsive, but there's more surface area on it, so it's going to flow a lot better, and it's also going to be a lot faster because there's more surface area for the board to glide on the water with. And so I decided to make my rocker super flat, and then a little bit of rocker in the nose so it doesn't purl, and a little bit in the tail for responsiveness off the top and bottom. And after that, I moved on to the finishing touches phase, which is basically just working on the rails and working on the rails and cleaning up the board a bit. And then after that, just working out the nicks and crannies with 80 grit sandpaper, and then I sent the board into the blaster. So where's my end? Oh, there's my end. So then towards the end, I had about half a month of research I did. So I worked on my blog a lot in that half a month, and I made a website, and on that website I kind of made a timeline of everything I did throughout the project with the shaping and all the steps that I took. And then I also made kind of like a research paper on the evolution of shaping and how boards first started from the Alaya days and ancient Hawaiian days to where they are now with all this different kind of technology. So math, how did math come in? So yeah, there was 4 concepts we had to meet for this project. And so the first one was math. How did math come into this project? Well, there was a lot of different ways it could come into shaping. One of the two main ways is that with shaping and with surfboards, you always want the board to be kind of equal and asymmetrical so it rides well. And so you always are looking at the measurements and making sure the measurements are good and checking out the thickness and the wide point and everything. And then also volume, because if you have too little volume, the board won't float you, or if you're not experienced enough, it just won't be a good board for you. So for volume, for like the volume of a cube or a rectangle, it's length times width times height. But for a rectangle. But for a surfboard, a surfboard's kind of a different shape, so you have to break it down into like three. The way I did it is I broke it down into three different kind of spots, because it's like a triangle off the top, triangle off the bottom, and kind of like a rectangle, and found the volume of all those and then figured it out. And then science. So for science, there was the contours of the board, which were basically, if you think about it, kind of like a channel of channels in a boat, and that just helped guide the water through the board to the fins and help decide how the board rode. Next up, I had English, and so for English, I did a lot of researching. I did a lot of researching for shaping, and I did a lot of researching for the kind of the paper I wrote, and so I did that, and I did a lot of writing too for the paper and the blogs that I did. Next up is history. So for history, I kind of just researched a lot about the evolution of shaping and how it first started and ended, and then I learned kind of like a lot of different things I didn't know, like after World War II, how so many of these materials were available because of the war. Like fiberglass was available, and that helped evolutionize the surfboard. So 21st century skills are basically skills you need to go out into the world and be successful. So the first one is critical thinking and problem solving, and so that is how did that come? So we had a big list of everything, and we had a big list, and I went through and kind of circled the things that I learned throughout this project. So critical thinking and problem solving. For the board, it doesn't always go your way, and so you always, like, at one point the measurements were really off, and so I had to kind of problem solve with that with my uncle and I, and we had to work it out. And also critical thinking, just because if you take all the aspects into play, like the contours and the rocker and the wide point and just basically how the board is shaped, you kind of have to figure out if everything's gonna work well. It's kind of, and ride the way you want it to ride. Collaboration. I collaborated a lot with my uncle, because when I had done the research, I knew what I wanted to do, and then we bought the blanket, we went in the shaping room, and I told him what I wanted, and he told me what would work and what we would need to do, and we just kind of collaborated our ideas. Initiative, I learned a lot, because when I was going into the while I was shaping, there's kind of a lot of boring parts of it. For example, when you're shaving off the top and bottom of the board, you're shaving off that ceiling. It gets really boring, just because, or like you'll wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I don't want to go, just because it's really boring. It's not very much fun, but I just knew I had to do it, so I kind of learned to motivate myself and give myself initiative to go. And then lastly, curiosity and imagination. It's the one I learned from most because, like, I didn't really know much about shaping before, but now that I know all about the rocker and everything, it's kind of opened my eyes to what's available and what the future of shaping could be like. And I'm always kind of thinking about how I could kind of just add different formulas up on a board and see how it would work. And I'm really interested in that, and I'm definitely gonna get another blank and try another shape. So how will this affect or help your community? Well, currently it can affect the community because if it can kind of show kids how anything is possible if you put your mind to it. Because if you were to ask me, like, if I was ever going to shape a board before, I'd basically laugh at you and ask you if you were joking, because I didn't think it was really possible until I gave myself initiative and actually tried it. And so it just shows if you put your head to something, then you can actually do it. And secondly, this will affect and help the community because towards the second semester, I'm planning on shaping an eco-friendly board. The reason I didn't do it this semester is because I didn't have the money for it, and also I thought it was a better idea just to learn how to shape before I took the next step in making the board eco-friendly. Thank you for watching my presentation, and have a good day.